One. Hey everybody, welcome to Dice Jailers. My name is
Hi,
Jordan,
I'm Bjorn.
and this week we're gonna talk about taking your tabletop game and turning it into a web show. Because a lot of groups have done that, especially since the advent of really the renaissance of D&D being like back in the forefront of pop culture, which is super exciting.
Absolutely. I mean, and I think this internet thing might be starting to catch on. Like
Just a little
it
bit.
got a slow start, but
So, but before we get into all of those things, Bjorn, how have you been this last week?
this week has been good. Um, I had to order some stuff, all of which can be returned, thankfully, because it's only be used briefly as Saturday afternoon slash evening. I have a series of photo shoots. I teased this last week. I
Mhm.
am part of a semi-lewd LEWD nerd daily calendar that will be probably released next year or the year after, not quite sure when. All the funds for it are going to various charities, but you ever had it where you get a package in the mail and you realize drunk you bought you a present? Have you ever had that? Because I
Quite
have.
often.
I've had that experience in life. Okay, so drunk you is really nice to you. Well, drunk me decided to volunteer me for this calendar. And I had an opportunity to back out, and I chose not to. I've been acting for a long time. I've been on stage with multiple bands. Performing or being in front of cameras is not foreign to me. What I have literally never done is anything that one would consider modeling. So I won't lie, I'm very nervous about it. Like I've never done this. I'm super nervous, but a friend of mine connected me with a very cool photographer. I've seen a bunch of her work. Her portfolio looks great. And she said, "Don't worry, I'll make it work." And she agreed to do all the photo editing for me. And she's gonna get me all the stuff within a few days. And so I'm super excited, but super nervous. And so that's on Saturday after we're done with our game. And so yeah, we'll see how it
it's
goes. But
it's
I'm
just
kind of freaking out about that.
it's just wild to me that my dude's gonna be in a calendar.
Man, yeah, yeah. I mean, people are gonna turn that page real quick. They'll be like, "Oh, it's tomorrow." Yeah, we'll skip that day.
Oh
What
god.
what about you? Yeah, what have you been doing that lets you keep your clothes on?
Uh, I mean, technically, I don't need to because I'm not going to be the one on video for for the project, but I'm doing directing
True.
with Reboot Theater
Yeah.
for their test kitchen for their second week of the test kitchen. I get to
So
direct
for
two
test kitchen,
pieces.
what are you cooking up?
Nope, nope, hate that. But
That that
there's
happens.
a set of monologues written by Colleen, which everyone that's a Seattle actor that is even remotely around knows that name and knows that those monologues are going to be
Mhm.
amazing. And then also there
Yes.
is a piece called Meteorite from a New York playwright that goes under the name of Zed. Um, Super dope. It's this lovely piece about two non-binary people talking about their existence and how their existence changes, kind of like a meteorite or a meteoroid or a meteor. And
Yeah.
it's very nice. It's very touching, and it's very it makes you feel good. It's a very good piece. And if you want to watch, it's on Monday, 7 o'clock Pacific time. Look up Reboot Theater Seattle Test Kitchen 2.0. You'll be able to find it. It's gonna be so cool. But that's what I've been up to this week. Just scheduling those video
Nice.
rehearsals and making them happen, and doing the director thing again, which I have missed because I haven't done that for almost a friggin' year. Ugh.
And
Uh,
have you started working with your actors already? Like, have you had any rehearsals yet?
yeah, we actually had a rehearsal for a meteorite. just before we jumped into this.
Okay,
Like
so I have to ask because you and I have talked about directing styles in the past,
Mhm.
and your and my directing style, like we have some similarities. So I'm curious, how was it adjusting to this? Like where you couldn't do a lot with their physicality? Because for me, I like to build tableaus or portraits, and so it's all about getting from one to the other. So the full picture is really important to me. I know for you, you talked about how people actually moving in the space, like that's important to you, and
Mhm.
that's part of your whole your process. So how did you adjust?
I really shifted my brain into the all the different things that I've done in past classes and past shows
Mhm.
for
Yeah,
studying and for studying Shakespeare, and basically treating all of the wordplay. And it helps because Zed and Colleen's scripts are both so rich and deep with like this
nice.
sentence is said this way, but it also means like eight different things because they're both amazing writers. And so it was really just kicking into playing with the meat of what the words are and getting that storytelling out in a way that it works on video, which is very different for being in person. Uh,
Yeah,
and it also it it's just been odd, but it's really just working with the wordplay more than anything else. And thankfully, I have amazing actors to work with. Uh,
that always helps. That
yeah,
always helps.
and speaking of telling a story through video, uh,
Yeah,
our topic for this week is taking a game and taking it from the table to in front of you in a video. And I know we both have wanted to try doing this, so we've looked
it's
into it a little bit.
it's been a back burner item definitely for me.
Hmm. But and obviously talking on this since we haven't done this before, we
Yeah,
might
like
need
this an
uh,
expert.
yeah,
Or
someone who's done this before and has been doing it
sure, maybe
for a
not
bit of
even an
time.
expert, someone who has more experience than both of us combined.
That is true. And so
Yeah.
it'd be nice to have
Where would we
someone.
find such a thing, Jordan?
I don't know. Right there. Here is where we would find such a thing.
Jordan, do you know what that is? Do you
Hello,
know what that is?
was that the cue? I hope that was the cue.
That was not only the cue, we would call that
If you
magic.
you're gonna find a way to do that in every episode from now on, aren't you? Uh,
I
so
might.
internet, I'd like to introduce you to one of my best friends on the planet and one of my longest friendships on the planet. Also, Ethan Dill.
Hello, internet.
Uh,
Also, just a little side thing. I start off every episode of my show by saying "Hello, internet," so I appreciate you leading me into that, even though you didn't know you were doing it.
you think I don't watch your show? Come on now. But
He takes
speaking of your
copious
show,
notes.
why don't you give the internet a bit of a primer on who you are?
Yes, please.
Hi, yeah, I'm Ethan. Like Jordan said, we've been friends for a long time. I want to say back since middle school.
Yeah,
Um,
all because of band,
I guess
baby.
I'm here to talk about yes, exactly. I guess I'm here to talk about what it's like putting a D&D show on the internet. I guess it was almost 3 years back now at this point. I got the idea I think most people got their idea from watching Critical Role, but I actually the first show that I saw that was on the internet was a UK-based group called High Rollers.
Yes, I've
Uh
seen them.
They're pretty good. And I kind of, found Critical Role through them. But as I started to watch all of these shows, I had the realization, hey, I play D&D and my friends have fun doing that with me. Why couldn't we put that on a show? So I kind of talked about it with one or two of my friends and they were really into the idea. So we put together a group and we just did it. And now it's 3 years later and we've been doing it this whole time.
Nice.
So
And so I guess to give kind of a big ol' like softball of a start. what is because we will probably have some viewers that are also thinking about starting their own web shows, and I mean we also have wanted to start our own web shows. And what would be, I guess, the biggest softball of a thing of like, I had no idea this was going to be necessary and I need it to make the show happen.
Oh man. Um, well, honestly, like it's probably a given, but one of the things that initially comes to mind is you really need everyone to be on board for the commitment. Because
Hmm.
it's one thing when you're playing a tabletop game and someone can't make a session. A lot of times, if you got enough people in the group, you can say, all right, well, we can just kind of, you know, backpack your character for this session. They're in the background doing their own thing, but we're going to continue onward. But when it comes to a show, it I mean, obviously you can still do that, but it becomes a little bit more strikingly obvious,
Hmm.
that a character who might be heavily involved in the current storyline is not present. So, like I said, it's kind of obvious, but you really want to make sure that everyone is really on board with the. All right, we're going to do this every week for quite a long time, and we're going to tell an ongoing story. So you're on board, right? Um, that sort of thing. Uh, Other than that, I mean, you guys see, I mean, you guys are theater people. You know what the production side has to look like, right? You know all about the lighting and the audio tech, but like getting into all of that, that was new for me. Unfortunately, one of my players and one of my friends, Kay, uh, she was very willing to like do all of the like OBS layout stuff and make sure that everything looked good, so that I didn't have to worry about it because honestly, that stuff is over my head. Um, but that's another thing to consider is you've got suddenly technical aspects that you have to worry about, which
Yeah,
are not a thing when you're just playing a home game.
Sure.
for sure, for sure. Do you have any moments that you can think of off the top of your head from your show that are better because it's a show? If that makes sense, like things that have happened during your games that like this is way better because we know it's a show, as opposed to like this is just us cracking jokes around the table.
That's a really interesting question. And I guess I also realized only just now I haven't said what my show is called.
Oh
Our
right.
show is called Antiheros Anonymous. You can look it up on YouTube. We used to stream on Twitch, but now we just premiere our episodes on YouTube. So the whole backlog is there. Um, but getting back to your question, I think I can't think of a specific moment, but what I will say is that since we're a group of people who are just, regular people, we're not actors or anything like, the Critical Role cast or whatever. Um, we don't do YouTube and Twitch and stuff like that for a living. So for us, I think that having our game be a show, in some way, kind of elevates people's ability to stay focused on the content that is, the current storyline, to invest in it a little bit more, to make sure that they're participating in conversations and things like that. Um, because again, if it's a home game, you can pull out your phone and you can send a quick text, or there's all these things that can pull you out of the moment. But by making it a show, it just brings everyone's focus and attention, uh, fully into the story, and I think that it allows people to become more invested and to get deeper layers to the story, that might have not come out otherwise.
Huh. I never thought of that being a thing. That makes sense. Huh.
Sure, like, knowing that you have to be invested to the moment, you're aware of what's being recorded, whereas if it was like you said, if it was just you and your friends around a table on a random whatever night or
Hmm.
afternoon, it's it is what it is, and you know that you are kind of within your own bubble. You're probably more willing to say you're probably more willing to make a joke if there aren't cameras that you don't care if it doesn't land so much, but you might have more have that awareness of like, that might not be funny. I'm not going to say it.
I mean, we still make plenty of bad jokes.
God, I hope
And
so. I really
yeah,
hope so. I mean,
one of the players in our show, Melissa, she plays the rogue in the party, her name is Mara, and she's a fantastic character. But Melissa is a master of puns,
yes.
Oh
the
no.
best punsmith I have ever seen, perhaps.
Melissa and
Sometimes
I
though
are cut from the same cloth. I'll tell you that right now. Jordan
they
has been
are
playing
I
in many of my
uh,
games.
I was hoping we wouldn't get on the pun train, but here we are. It's gonna happen. It's a rolling. Oh boy.
it happens no matter what. You can't stop it. That's the thing about puns.
They're amazing.
But yeah, she doesn't hesitate to throw out her bad puns and make us all groan or laugh as
As
appropriate.
it should be.
Yeah, I mean, because when it comes down to it, like, yeah, you're recording a show, but at the same time, and I think like Matt Mercer says this about Critical Role as well. Like, it's just a group of friends playing a game when it comes down to it. And sure, you're doing it for people to watch, but it's still your game,
Well,
right?
and
Mhm.
as someone who does this, and please say if you disagree. But in all the live play stuff I've either watched or listened to, or even in my own games, I think part of what makes D&D as special as it can be is that human connection. Like, ideally you like the people you're playing with, and so that gives you a certain comfort in the ways you're willing to perform.
Hmm.
And so not just the connection of these people around the table, but I think that can enrich the relationships between the characters themselves. I mean, you don't have to have inter-party romance or anything like that, which, hey, that's fine if it happens, but you can have such deep, rich friendships build between characters that y'all made up. Like, these
Hmm.
characters never existed before these stories, and now you can go and talk to somebody else about this super rich friendship between two characters. I think that's what we enjoy about watching it.
Yeah, definitely. And there's something to be said for like not even just the relationships you're able to build between characters, but also once you find a group, and this goes for groups that are not streaming shows as well. But I feel like once you find a good group with people you really click with, and you're able to invest in this tabletop hobby with them, like it really builds a friendship quickly because you're doing creative storytelling together, right?
Yeah.
Which is just such a, I don't know, it builds relationships well. So I mean, I can't speak for the people in my group, but from my perspective, I feel like they've become some of my closest friends. And we're living through weird times where we can't see people in person a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But I've got my weekly commitment where I see my friends on Thursday nights when we record our episodes of our show. So I don't know. It keeps me sane a little bit, I think.
I feel that.
Uh, I, I definitely feel you there, as Jordan's in a campaign of mine that I've been running just over 2 years now.
Hmm.
October 13th was our 2-year anniversary of it.
Well,
And
congratulations.
thank you. And but some of the people around that table had never met each other before
Yeah,
I started running it.
like
And
Nathan and
I curated, yeah, yeah, I curated my player list from people I knew, and I went, these people are going to vibe well. And back when we used to have it here at my apartment, sat around my table, I even had people in assigned seats because I knew these people are going to hit it off. And one of my best friends for many, many years, Nathan and Jordan, I had them sitting next to each other because I knew they're going to vibe.
yep.
Those two
We
had an
we and
instant
our characters are
romance.
now
Their
kind of
characters were
inseparable.
best friends.
That's lovely.
It's really cute. It's really cute. Like,
Yeah.
they would even bring each other little alcohol presents when we were allowed to still meet in person.
Mhm.
Aw.
Yeah, I ship it. I
Yeah.
fully ship it.
I mean, when your characters play the game of World's Tallest Goblin real quick in the campaign, that's a friendship forever.
Yes,
Was that them climbing on each other's shoulders
yes, it
That
was.
to
yes,
become
that
world?
was
Okay, good.
me as
I've
my human with a goblin on my shoulders and a cloak, just showing the goblin as my head. Uh,
Many times.
that's gotta be a Scrubs reference, right?
Yep,
It's gotta
yep.
be.
World's
I
tallest
thought
world's
so.
tallest doctor.
Knew it.
absolutely is.
Oh my god. Uh, so with your show, just because like we have you as the showrunner, the DM, the everything, what are things that have evolved with your DM style because of running the show?
Um, I mean, honestly, my style has changed a lot since the beginning because when we started the show, I was, to be honest, really still a pretty green DM. I had at that point DM'd maybe, I don't know, like a total, like a grand total in my life up to that point of like 8 sessions.
Mhm.
And then my friends were like, "Hey, you play a lot of D&D and we're talking about this. Could you be the DM?" Um, and I thought about it and I was like, maybe, I guess. I'll give it a try. Um, so in the beginning, I mean, I was the sort of DM who planned things out as best as I could, like to a T, every little detail. So I go back and look through my notes from way back then, and it's just they're miles long. Um, and I mean, I'm still a little bit of a perfectionist when it comes to my planning. Like I like to be as prepared as possible, but with time, my ability to improv, just because I've gotten to know my players and the characters really well, that's increased, and I feel like, and also, to be honest, I didn't have the world as fully fleshed out way back then, and so 3 years down the line, I've got a much better idea of the world that we're playing in. So my ability to, plan a little bit less and just go with the flow wherever the players want to take the story, that has increased, I'd say.
Awesome.
What have you found are some of your biggest challenges just in the way of running a story for an audience? Like, do you find yourself second guessing more than you think you normally would when preparing, or do you just kind of trust your players to go, they're going to make something cool out of this?
Honestly, I feel like most of what has made our show great has been me throwing something at the players, not really wondering if they were going to latch onto it, and then having someone really like pick up on it and dive
Mhm.
into it. Or it has been something where my player has given me a small detail in their backstory or something like that, and I've just sat down and thought, okay, what can I do with this, and expanded upon it. So yeah, I mean, honestly, it comes down to I have great players, I feel like.
Doesn't that help so much?
Yeah, it really does. Uh, I frequently have this thing, and I don't know if it's just because it's a streamed show, but I think about this, and I'm not sure that my D&D game would be great if I weren't playing with the wonderful people that I play with, but
No,
they're wonderful and I play with them, and so it is great.
I completely feel the same way.
I
Almost
mean,
every session I have, when it ends, I think to myself, "Man, I have a great group."
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know. I know I feel the same. Maybe you feel the same. They make it easy on me. Like
Yeah, definitely.
I
Mhm.
know their characters and I know how they're going to be invested in the story. So I know, man, if I had a busy week and I was able to write almost nothing, I can throw two or three little things out there. Somebody's going to latch onto it, and we're
Mhm.
going to go 3 hours based off two sentences.
The other the other thing that's great, when you get players that are as great as mine are, and it sounds like yours are, is when you're in those situations where you are like, "I've got almost nothing." If you just let them know that, like, "Hey, planning was a little bit light," they will role play the heck out of your entire time, and it just gives you those deep character moments, and takes a little bit of stress and burden out of off of the DM, which is great.
Those sessions where you got to make sure you have some tissues with you because it's going to get real dusty up in the room.
Mhm.
Mhm. We just recorded one like that where, like, I didn't have maybe as much planned as I needed, and I was like, "You guys have had some big stuff happen lately. Maybe you'll wanna talk to each other," and they did, and man, it got deep.
Oh, those are so
Um,
good.
Those moments
Those are
are
yeah.
so good.
great.
We it was one of those sessions where a character ends up slapping the other character to, like, get them out of a funk that they were in, that
Yep.
kind of
Yep.
thing. It was pretty great.
So, if you were to give advice, if somebody's coming to you and said, "Hey, I am going to start this stream. I'm starting it 3 months from now. What are like 3 do's and the 3 don'ts that you would give them? And don't feel constrained to the numbers, but like, hey, make sure you do this, make sure you do this.
Hmm.
Don't do this, don't do this. More in the realm of things that people might not think of right away.
Okay. Um, well, we'll start with the do's, I
Yeah.
guess, because I feel like that's a little bit easier. Uh, do absolutely, if you've got 3 months, spend a lot of that time talking with your players about what kind of character they want to have, what kind of story they want to have, how they want their character's arc to go. And like, they don't need to forecast. I want every little story beat to look like this, but if you can get an idea of like, I eventually see my character overcoming this issue. Um,
Yes, yes.
that's something that can really help you as a DM sort of flesh out that story and make it a more rich viewing experience for the audience, I think. Um, that's one of those things that like I wish I had done early on in the show, and I will definitely do when we get to our second campaign. Um, because I had backstories for all the characters, but it was like, all right, where do I take these now?
Sure.
Another do, let's see. Um, do remember that it's all about having fun with your group. Um, putting the label of like this is a D&D show onto it adds some pressure. Like I know that I always get nervous before a show. Um,
So we said
but
thinking more about your players and your story than your audience sometimes. Like we're
yeah,
remembering that there's a reason why we're all around this in the right now virtual table.
hmm, exactly. It's remembering that though you're doing something that is for the public, it is also for you, and it is for your group of friends.
Sure.
So Um, and if I feel like if you stray away from that, it's really easy for the game to become boring and stale, and just not fun for anyone, players or viewers. So it's a good thing to keep in mind.
Right.
Um, let's see, any other do's? Man, I'm drawing a blank. Let's think about don'ts. Um,
Yeah, like I said, don't feel constrained to the number 3 on it. Like just yeah, I was more curious if there were things that some folks like may not think of because obviously you have to have cameras, microphones, a good internet connection. Like I feel like those things
mhm.
are obvious. What are some things that you would suggest people avoid?
Um, man, let's see. Um, don't I would say don't obsess too much if you're not getting a viewership.
Sure.
Um, because we started out, we weren't quite sure if anyone was going to watch us, and turns out not many people do. We get a solid, you know, 10 or so views per episode. But honestly, that's fine. It's the act of putting it out which is fun for us, I think. And I did get to meet the like one fan that we have of the show, who is not someone I know at one point, and that was a pretty great experience.
That just
That's really cool.
sounds awesome. Like the idea that someone you don't know at all discovered you because this exists, and then they showed love to you. Like that just sounds like a really special moment to me.
It was really great, and I don't know. It was kind of weird because it was a moment where like we're talking about a show that or a story that we've both experienced in different ways, but
Mhm.
at the same time, like this is the first. I don't know. It was a surreal experience, but definitely it was worth it. So let's see what else. Uh, man, I feel like I should have more for you. If I think of something later,
Sure, but I think
No.
that is a great piece of advice to have for people of like don't think about current or potential viewership when you do it. Like if you are obsessed on that, like I think Jordan and I can even speak from theater. Like if you're obsessed about what the house size might be like when you go into doing a show, you're kind of doing it for the wrong reason.
mhm.
Like yes, anytime I performed, when I hear, dude, guys, we're sold out tonight, that sounds great.
Mhm.
But I've also performed shows in front of 4 people total, and I knew 3 of them personally. and that didn't mean I gave less of a performance.
Hmm.
Like I wasn't there for a packed house every night. So I think that's a wonderful piece of advice to remind people of why they're there.
Yeah.
Um,
And I mean, also the story that you're putting out, whether it reaches one person or a million people, it can be just as meaningful to that one or million people that you reach. So
Now, have you always been doing the show in this digital format of everyone like zooming in or Skyping or whatever format, or were you originally physically all around a table together and then had to adjust?
we have basically the entire time for the show played in person until recent times.
Mhm.
And then we had to adjust to, okay, what does it look like to play digitally? So, like, one of the things that I do as part of the group is I like to 3D print miniatures and paint them and bring them and set up the maps. And like, we kind of have a tradition like when someone gets a kill in a battle, they get to take the miniature off the map and be like, this is my trophy. Um,
Nice.
and that's part of the fun for us when it comes to combat. So we've had to think about like, how does this look when we don't get to have that fun moment of, this one's my trophy? And like, do we attempt to use roll 20 for digital maps, or do we go all theater of the mind? That sort of thing.
Right.
And like, what have you found has been more successful for you in that? And then jumping back to in the before times, just out of curiosity, how many cameras did you have set up for that? Like, what was the way that you filmed that?
Let's see. It was kind of a messy setup. We could probably improve it. But
Messy's
we
good.
had,
Hey, you're on this
yeah.
show. We're fine with messy.
Mhm.
So I have OBS running on my laptop, um, and I use my webcam on my laptop to capture me, um, and then we have basically books and boxes set up with like picture frames on top of them that we can put cameras on top of, which face either side of the table, kind of in a crisscross, so that one camera captures two players and then one camera captures the other two players. And then we have sort of a kind of like a conference room central mic type thing
Mhm.
that just goes in the middle of the table that catches everyone's voices.
Nice.
Do you
And so I gotta
have
know with the now times,
hmm,
um, theater mind roll 20, which wins out more often?
Uh, I think we still kind of take it case by case. We tried to do exclusively Theater of the Mind for a while, but the players are now level 20, and
Okay.
Theater of the Mind gets really hard at level 20.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, dude.
Um,
Ooh, so are you nearing the end then? Or are you like, nah, F it, we're gonna be gods for a while?
we are nearing the end. We are currently uh, getting pretty close to wrapping up what we've been calling the epilogue arc. It's almost its own separate show, though it's gone on so long.
Sure.
They're 6 layers deep in the 9 hells, and stuff is very real at the moment.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I mean, to that point, like we tried Theater of the Mind for a while. They fought the Archduke Levistus, and that was the fight that convinced me, no, we need to find a map solution because it got really hard to track who was where.
Yeah.
Um,
And
but Roll 20 has been working out. We really just use it for moving tokens around and
yeah,
nothing
to
else.
to get an idea of distancing and what that since certain abilities affect in certain
Hmm.
ranges and all that. And I'm going to talk over you one more time, Jordan, just 'cause I'm dying to know this, like DM to DM, and this is I'm an overly sentimental fool. Like I literally have dreams about my campaign ending, and I know 6 to 12 months from now we're going to reach that point. It's going to be over, and I'm already emotional about it. Like, how do you feel overall? Like, are the emotions a lot sometimes thinking about this? Like, at some point you're going to have to say the words "the end"
Hmm.
or some proximity or some facsimile thereof, and that'll be it for these characters. Like, is that weird? Is that emotional? Like, what's that like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it is weird and emotional, and it's compounded by the fact that at this point I've done it once, because, like I said, this is an epilogue arc.
Right. Yeah.
We sort of ended the main arc where they defeated the big bad for the long campaign,
Who was the big
and
bad?
then It was a spirit named Orochi.
Okay.
We have sort of so I'm a Japanese language major. I work as a
Mhm.
translator, Japanese to English.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
so I've got a lot of like knowledge of like weird Japanese spirits and yokai and legends rattling
Yeah.
around in my brain. So I tried to introduce that into our campaign. By creating a space where these sorts of spirits and yokai could exist. Um, and so one of them ended up being kind of the major big bad for the main arc.
That's friggin' sweet. I like that.
Yeah, it was really fun, and I think that they enjoyed that part. But then there were just so many loose ends after 2.5 years, 2 years at that point, maybe of playing this campaign where it's like they wanted to know about some of these other things. And so we had a conversation and we decided that I would try to put every loose end that I could think of into an epilogue arc. And that has gone on for like a year now.
Well, I mean, every good RPG has a new game plus, right?
Hmm.
We're like, well, I didn't get to do all these side quests, so let's new game plus. I still have my gear, and I'll go do this.
Right.
Hmm. And I mean, we have managed to cram almost every. We've created some new loose ends, but
Sure.
we have fixed. We connected the dots on a lot of points. I think so.
I mean,
It's been
as you
fun.
do.
I mean,
Um,
when you're level 20, you can put the square peg in the round hole. Like it can be done because you say
when
so.
you have the wish spell, it can be done.
Right.
Um,
Oh, the wish spell. The wish spell,
yeah,
the deck of many things.
Uh,
I've never done the deck of many things, but the sorcerer in the party does have the wish spell, and it is
Mm.
terrifying and exhilarating at the same time.
Oh, sure.
But to give you to tie a bow on the answer to your question,
Yeah.
yeah, it's going to be weird when it ends. But the cool thing is, we are already plotting a second campaign. The party is, they've come up with some characters,
Nice.
they've worked out some backstories, um, and it's set in the same world.
Oh,
So
cool.
the characters that are their story is about to end, they're not gone. I mean, assuming they don't die in their final bit in the nine hells, and when they eventually return to the world that they're from, they could appear as npcs eventually in the future.
That's exciting.
So
I like
that's
that.
super cool. So what I wanted to know is because you have had this world that's and this game that's existed, uh, is there any moment in particular that you can remember that you ever like, oh, I'm so glad this is recorded because this is epic and I need to watch it back?
man, there have been a lot. There have been so many, actually. Let me just pick a few, and this is going to be like that moment where the dude at the party is like talking so much about his D&D campaign, and like you're not invested in the characters, so it doesn't mean anything to you, but just bear with me. Um, so let's see. Okay, one of the ones that sticks out to me as um, like a particularly epic emotional moment for the party was they had a friend, or really more of like a mentor. I put this character in the campaign really early on. His name was Mandus. Um, Basically, if they got in trouble because I didn't know how to balance things, he would show up and save their butts. And that happened at one point where like characters were down and dying and they needed to be saved. And so they ended up growing really close to this character. And at one point, he revealed to them that he had this big secret that he was actually a silver dragon, and that was really cool. But um, through a turn of events, he ended up getting captured by a powerful vampire lord in the Shadowfell, who had kind of been his nemesis for, I guess, since he's a dragon and the other guy's a vampire, like thousands of years. Um, and so the party had to then be the ones to go and rescue this person who has been like their mentor and their like shield for a long time.
Yeah.
Um, and when they finally got there, it turned out that the vampire had put Mandus into like it had pushed him through this like portal into the plane of negative energy and was using him kind of like as a negative energy battery. Um, and so they had to have this moment where they're fighting the vampire and also trying to pull him out of the plane, like, risking life and limb to try and like extract this friend of theirs from the negative energy plane. And it was beautiful just because of all the way that the story had, kind of transpired, where they go from like he's my mentor and protector to now we have to help him, that sort of
For
thing.
sure, like just
Mhm.
that investment. But I mean, just hearing that story. Granted, I don't know any of these characters, but I'm familiar enough with tropes where I can go, no, I see that. Like I see how that's important. Like it's almost like a Karate Kid 1 to 2 kind of thing where Miyagi's totally there for Daniel-san all throughout Karate Kid. Does the acupressure techniques at the tournament so we can go to the final. And then in Karate Kid 2, you got like Daniel-san stepping up largely
Mhm.
for Miyagi's honor because
Mhm.
Miyagi was always there for him. So again, like we know those stories, and
Right.
that's awesome. Like I'm hearing that, and this whole time, once you got to like, oh, and they pull him out, I just found myself saying in my head, "Don't tell me the dragon died. Don't tell me the dragon died. Come on, tell me they got the dragon out." Like
They got him out. They
I'm
did.
rooting for
He
this
lived.
character that I didn't
Yep.
know even existed 5 minutes ago.
Yep. Mandus lives. He survives. He's still around.
That's good.
So yeah, there have been epic moments like that. The
Yeah.
other the other one, bear with me as I tell yet another story
No,
Do
please.
that
it.
stands
Do it.
out
Do it.
for
Do it.
me. And like honestly, I could go rewatch this episode and just be dying laughing because it was a hilarious episode. Um, they went to this island at one point that was inhabited by cultists of various demon lords,
Like you do.
right? Yeah, like you do. So they had to deal with cultists of Baphomet and cultists of
Oh.
Yinogu, and then there was a third faction which was cultists of Juiblex, which I'm sure D&D nerds that
God
you are,
damn.
Demon Lord of Slimes, right?
Worst.
So
Mm.
the party basically exterminated the cultists of Baphomet and Yinogu by the time that they left the island, but they didn't kill the cultist of Juiblex. There was really only one of them. Because they actually ended up making a deal with him, and so he was alive, but he had the island to himself. Um, and the time came when the party had to leave the island. This was actually when they had to go deal with the vampire. Um,
Mhm.
and they were going to have to continue sailing east at some point, and they didn't want to have to double back the journey, so they teleported to their destination and left the boat on the island, like in the harbor. Um, so they dealt with the vampire, they saved the dragon, and then eventually the time comes for them to continue their journey east on the boat. So they're like, cool, let's teleport back to the boat. When they teleported back to the boat, and to this day, I don't know what inspired me to do this with this session, but I'm glad that whatever it was happened because it was wonderful. When they teleported back to the boat, the first after I described like them landing on the boat and kind of like getting their feel for being back here, I was like, but you realize the boat is not where you left it. Um, and so I describe how they realize the boat has actually somehow been hauled up to the top of the mountain
Oh
that
yeah.
was in the center of the island, and it was kind of like a geyser volcano. And so the boat is precariously perched in like the caldera of this geyser volcano. Um, and as they survey the island itself, the entire thing has been covered with slime, like from the beaches to the top of the mountain.
Yeah.
Um, and so as they're like, okay, what the heck do we do with this? Like, how do we get the boat back down? Um, I had this massive demon that they'd encountered a couple times on the island but didn't kill, a big Garistro, which was at that time kind of above their station to deal with. Um, he started coming up the backside of the mountain and they could see him coming and they're like, all right, we need to get the boat down to the water now. So they like started rocking it. And basically the episode played out as a chase where the Garistro was chasing them down the mountain as the boat was just sliding down this slimy hill. Um, and I had worked out various complications for things that could happen, like other demons coming and joining the chase.
Sure.
But the best one was I don't know if you're familiar with the book. I think it's Creature Codex. It's back there on the shelf
Mhm.
from
Mhm.
Kobold Press. It's got a monster in it called the Shark Bowl Ooze.
Ooh, what's this? This sounds right up my alley.
It's
Yeah,
honestly one of the best monsters in that book. It is an ooze that has formed a symbiotic relationship with like a hunter shark.
Okay.
So it's basically like a gelatinous cube, except it's a gelatinous sphere
Yeah.
that contains a vicious shark. It is what it sounds like.
it's a blob
That's
with a shark
beautiful.
in it.
Yep.
I I,
And so
I want one.
I know it's a great monster. And so at one point during the chase, the volcano, this geyser volcano erupts, throwing shark bowl oozes at them, and they've got to deal with these shark bowl oozes on their boat while they're running from a garistro, sliding down this mountain.
While Yakety Sax is playing.
Yeah, it was glorious. So
Oh,
No, that's beautiful. Like those are the kind of things I absolutely love. See, Jordan, I didn't do that to you guys when you fought Juablex. So
yeah,
there you go. Yeah,
surprisingly, you just kind of let us fight him like a normal fight.
yeah. I mean, only one of you died.
uh, see,
only one though.
Only one.
asking see, asking this question, I knew that it was going to be a great set of stories, but I was so curious. I was like, okay, do I remember which episode he's talking about?
I mean, I can send it to you later if you want to check it out. But
I mean, I've watched it at least once because I'm up to current.
oh no way, I didn't actually know that.
Oh yeah, I've kept up.
Just wait for next episode though. Some fun
Yeah,
stuff happens. I mean, I already texted you about it because I was hyped
yeah. I was
about
gonna
it,
say
obviously.
you
But
told me a little bit. Uh,
Yeah.
but so is there just thinking about things like as a DM again and trying to get a little bit more, just a couple bits of info for the people. Uh, what's a thing as a DM that you have kind of in your arsenal to fall back on when you forget about things? And we kind of touched on this a little bit with the like letting the players just
Yeah.
role play within themselves. But do you have any like story arc tropes or like enemies that you kind of are use as your fallback enemies that other people might be able to use easier?
The Tarask.
um, yes, no.
The scroll of Tarask summoning.
That's a that's an interesting question because like the way that my DM brain works, I always want to be doing something new. So like I try not to have a fallback enemy. I think I'm pretty good at role playing hags and devils. So, you know, if I've got to introduce a storyline, ones that use hags and devils work out well, which is what the current storyline is. So it's perfect. But
Right.
um,
So intelligence is your key stat.
I mean,
I mean,
if I
we've
say it, it
known that
sounds
since middle
braggy,
school.
but
Well, that's why I said it for you. That's why I said it for you. So it's all good.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You've you've been the smart one in our friendship since middle school. Like, come on now.
I and I will say I say it as a place of from a place of admiration because anytime I have tried to use like devils or hags or those intelligent type creatures, I always find myself concerned because I know how smart some of my
Mhm.
players are, and so I'm like, oh hells, I got to try and make sure I keep up with them for a lot of this stuff, and that's
You know,
hard for me.
yeah, I would say actually I have that same problem. Um, because like you approach these monsters like mind flayers and archdevils and things like that that are supposed to
Yeah.
be superhumanly smart, right? And like as smart as the smartest human can be, how do you convey that, right? Like, so I've had that problem, and I think, I mean, my players hate that this is what I will say about it, but like honestly, using your DM like out of game knowledge when you're playing these monsters, I feel like is really useful. So for example, um, like when in the current arc, the paladin uh, obviously went into hell like I'm not going to make any deals, right? I'm the righteous paladin. I can't be susceptible to any devil deals, but
But you
there
offered him a great timeshare in Cabo.
Exactly. No, there came a point in the show where like the party was in trouble. And so like my meta knowledge of this character, I know that if he can do something to save everybody, he will. And then also like I know the characters that he doesn't like, the characters that he sees as like his enemies. Um, and so I can present a deal to him that's like it's tempting because it doesn't seem like a stretch for him, right? So you use your DM knowledge. So in specific, I'm talking about there was an imp that has traveled with the party. The wild magic sorcerer summoned it a long time ago, and it's been like a constant companion ever since then. And the paladin, he hates the imp, obviously, right? Because he's all righteous and the imp is all evil.
Sure.
And the feeling's mutual. So there was a point when the party was in big trouble, and so I had the Archdevil Glacia, who's the ruler of the sixth layer of the Hells, sort of approach him as he was unconscious and be like, "Hey, I can save you and your friends, and all it's going to cost you is when you've accomplished your mission, you need to kill this imp, right?" And so for him, it's like a no-brainer. It's like, sure, I'd do that anyways. Uh, but there's the inner party conflict that creates because the sorcerer and the imp are close,
Sure.
and then also it came up in our most recent episode, but there's some hidden danger in that. Um, what happens if the imp suddenly gets taken away? Um, then how do you fulfill your end of the bargain? And your soul is on the line now, owned by
Nice.
a devil.
Okay. So going with what you know specifically about your players and their characters, like you said, making sure that you factor that into these like super intelligent uh individuals. So would you say then if you had a being that had a certain level of like if they could communicate by telepathy, don't be afraid to basically read their own character sheet to them.
Yeah, I mean, if an enemy has the means to cast detect thoughts like Rakshasa and stuff,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, by all means, like, um,
I should be
I
taking notes
I
I
don't
on
see why
this. I
love
could
not.
use this
I
shit against
love and
Jordan.
hate that you're getting these ideas right now because Ethan, in our game that Bjorn's DMing, we are currently in Avernus.
They are.
Oh man,
They are.
that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, they just got sent on a fetch quest by Tiamat. It's so cute.
Yep. Also,
If you
we
want
met
to like
Tiamat.
talk about, oh, that's pretty cool. If you want to like ever chat about Nine Hells lore to prepare for this now 30 episode arc that they've been in Hell, I did a lot of reading, so
Nice.
I know my devil lore.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I'm a big fan of all the her previous iterations of the manuals of the planes. I love those. It's where all my Feywild knowledge comes from.
Now, Feywild knowledge is one that I'm lacking, so I might have to
Feywild's fun.
chat with you about that at some
Feywild's a
point.
lot of fun if you really wanna f with your players. Like
Yeah.
I'm kind of sad they're not there anymore, and I don't think they're gonna go back voluntarily, and I don't blame them.
No. No, we will not. No. Things went kind of well last time we were there. Let's leave it that way.
Yeah, end on a good
Please.
note for
Yeah.
sure.
My character got a
So
book that made him smart. I don't want to know what the inverse is.
yeah. So I'm curious, how often in your game as you've run it, like have you had these moments? Because I know I've said it, I've heard other people say it that sometimes the dice just know how to tell a story. Like
Oh man.
having those moments where like you part of you just can't believe that that character rolled the nat 20 right when they needed it, and everyone's cheering. Like how good does that feel knowing that it's captured on film for others to enjoy, where you could even have, and maybe you do have specific episodes where you were to say, hey, if you don't want to go through the whole campaign, that's great, I really encourage you to watch episode X though, because of a thing that happens. Like, do you guys have a lot of those where you feel like the dice just told the perfect story for you?
Yeah, I mean, like any game, that just happens,
Yeah.
and it's weird. Like the dice sometimes just know what is the best thing that can happen, and it just works out. Um, I mean, I don't think it happens any more or less for us because we're streaming it, but it
Sure.
always is great. Like the thing is, in that moment, I'm not thinking, man, it's great we have this recorded, um, though it is. My brain is just it's full of the same joy and elation that I would feel if we were just, around a table as friends. Like we're all just cheering. We're like, "Are you serious? Like, show me the dice." Um, like in that moment, I feel like it's easy to forget that we're recording a show because it's just a very
Sure.
natural moment that happens in these sorts of games. I can think of one. If you want another story,
I do.
one
We've
that
got
was
5 minutes,
wonderful.
so
Um, this happened in the Hell Arc. They were approaching a major city in Stygia, which is the fifth layer.
Yep.
Um, and the city was under siege because demons had somehow made their way as far down as the fifth layer in the Blood War. Basically, they'd
oof.
penetrated that far. Um, and it gets to the point where the party finally figures out how did they manage to do that? Well, the avatar of Demogorgon himself is leading the charge, and so they're sailing up. They're sailing down the river Styx towards the city, and they can see standing in the water ahead of them, laying waste to the city of devils, this massive form of Demogorgon. And so I'm like, hey, do you guys fight it? Do you wait it out and see what happens? Um, and they ended up deciding, hey, we're gonna go fight this thing because it's in our way. And so,
We're just gonna fight Demogorgon because
yeah,
it's Tuesday. Why
It'll be
not? Or
fine.
Thursday, I should say.
it was mostly fine. I think we did have one death. I think the fighter died, but I mean, they're level 19 at that point, so
Once you pass level
resurrection's
17, death's an inconvenience.
yeah. They got him back up. But the thing where the dice told the best story um, was that at one point, after the fighter got back up after being killed for the first time in our show, like
Wow.
he rarely goes down because I've overpowered him. I gave him too many good items.
And he
Um,
probably had some measure of constitution bonus, unlike our
yes.
game's fighter B.
Our
Mm.
fighter has a 10 constitution.
I
Just
made mistakes.
just take the tough feat. It'll be okay.
Oh, he has
Um,
that.
oh, never mind. Um, well, anyways, they managed to get the fighter back up in the fight, and he's basically climbed up onto Demogorgon and is like standing between the two heads.
Yeah.
And he has a sword that has like the Vorpal property.
Yeah.
Um, so it's like you roll a 20, and then if you roll a 20 again, you get to lop something off, right?
Mhm.
And that has never happened in the campaign,
Until
despite
now.
all the natural 20s, until he's fighting Demogorgon and he gets to
Yes.
lop off Demogorgon's freaking head. Um,
That's awesome.
yeah, it was a beautiful moment
Oh.
because not only did Demogorgon knock the character down and kill him for like the first time in the show, um, the character also then got like the sweet revenge of I literally chopped off Demogorgon's head. But the best part came several sessions later when by some magic, and I can't remember what it was that caused it, it might have been contact with Styx water or something like that.
Sure.
The character lost all memories of everything that happened in hell. So the party
Mm-hmm.
remembers he chopped off Demogorgon's head, but he does not.
Yeah, that was some Styx water. I remember that.
Yeah.
That's rough. That's rough.
uh, all right, we've hit our last 2 minutes. Ethan, thank you so much for coming on this show.
Yeah, you were a blast, man. This
and-
was great.
Thanks for
And
having
also
me.
just-
I never pass up a chance to talk about my fun game with my friends.
Well,
so-
this will not be the last time we have you here doing it. I can guarantee you that.
as
That'd be
long
great.
as
I'd be happy to come back sometime.
long as time allows, I would love to have you on the show as often as possible because like you
Word.
like as I said at the beginning, you've been my best friend for the longest amount of time in my life, and I love you dearly, and it hurts that I haven't seen you in way too long.
It's been far too long.
It's
Yeah.
been a
So
while.
I would gladly come back. So
Been a
whenever-
while.
been a while. Yeah, whenever you want me, just let me know.
But
I mean,
yeah,
I guess
with our
we record our show on Thursdays, so it has to line up with.
so we kind of
Well,
we'll
it'll
figure it
happen.
out. But with our last minute, please shout out your channel and every way that people can find you and watch
Yeah.
your amazing show that I've loved for the last couple of
Please.
years.
So it's Antiheros Anonymous. Once again, we're at Antiheros Anon on Twitter. We try to do a good job about posting stuff on there. We don't always. We also have a campaign wiki on World Anvil. If you want to go, one of the players does some art for some of the NPCs. So you can go check out stuff like that. There's articles about various things that have happened in the campaign and characters that they've met. What else do I say? It's a fun show. Just, I mean, come watch.
I'm now following you on Twitter.
Great. I've just remembered one other thing I should mention.
Yes.
I'm not the only DM on our channel. We also have started recently, sort of in between arcs of the main show. We're doing a side show called Antiheros in Exandria, which is DM'd by one of my players in the main show, and it's set in Wildmount.
Yeah.
The first arc was the Frozen Sick adventure from the campaign guide.
Love it.
When we get into the second arc, eventually, it will be brand new, fresh material straight from her brain. So,
Sweet.
yeah, and she's a great storyteller. So well worth watching if you don't want to watch 156 episodes of the original campaign.
But you do want to watch them. I promise you do want to watch them.
And I play a Dragonborn wizard in that, who is obviously a Dunamancy wizard, and they are an absolutely fantastic character. So
can't wait.
Zoftal Zephyrax.
Gesundheit.
Yep.
All right. So we've hit our time. Again, thank you so much for being here. Thank all of you watching now or will watch as the VOD comes out. Thank you so much for joining us.
If you haven't voted yet, we'll find you. Vote.
That's true.
Yeah.
We'll track you down and cast suggestion on you such that you must vote.
Yep. You'll be suggested to vote. And if that doesn't work, we'll cast command, and the command will be vote. So.
Yep. And as always, also
dominate person.
Sure, I mean, why not?
Yeah, we could go for that one.
Yeah.
I can't cast that. I'm just a fighter. But as always, please remember to take care of yourselves.
Yeah.
Remember to love each other. We're still it's still the COVID times, so take care of yourselves.
Oh, hey, Jordan, knock knock.
Who's there?
5.
5 who?
5-0. Go Hawks.
And you thought we'd get through an episode without mentioning professional sports. You were wrong.
It'll never happen.
Sports ball. Yay.
So yeah, we will catch you next week. Have fun in your lives and be good people. We still don't have a good way to end the show.
Ally is a verb.
Wrap-ups are hard, man. They are.
Yeah, because you never know what to say at the end. But I'm just gonna switch off.
Wrap it up. Win it.
I just wave and say bye.
We might need to just do that. Just freaking wave.
Yeah.
End scene.